This is not another polished startup podcast. This is Breakthrough, where founders step into the arena mid-battle. Hosted by Adam M. Root and Matthew A. Doyle. A podcast where two entrepreneurs who've been through the trenches dive deep into what it takes to get success. Cold outreach, rejection after rejection, and finally, momentum.
Welcome to Breakthrough, the podcast where we expose the raw, unfiltered reality of building startups. I'm Adam Root, alongside my co-host Matt Doyle. Hey, we're not here for the glossy success stories. We're here to uncover the blood, sweat, and tears from building something from nothing. Today, we're speaking with Georgia Austin, the founder and CEO of Wordbrew. Wordbrew is an all-in-one workflow tool for content creation. It's designed to produce on-brand, aligned, and authoritative content by combining expert insights with AI. In fact, I recently reviewed the Wordbrew platform and found that after thoroughly exploring it and its capabilities, I'm convinced the tool represents a significant advancement for marketing teams, especially those struggling to capture and leverage their organization's collective expertise. I found the platform elegantly solves one of the most persistent challenges in content marketing today, which is transforming internal knowledge into compelling, authoritative content that actually resonates with audiences. Georgia, it's so great to have you here today.
Hey guys, thanks for having me. Great to be here.
Awesome. So, Georgia, your journey is a little bit different than most founders that we talk to. You started as a successful freelancer, right? And then went to founding Wordbrew. What motivated you to take the leap from freelancer to being a founder?
Yeah, so kind of going back to the start of my journey, I was working as a full-time copywriter for a company based in London, and then towards the last 3 or so months, I had a couple of freelance opportunities find their way to me. And funnily enough, that ended up paying me more working just 2 to 3 hours a day than my full 9 to 5 did. And so that was my first kind of aha moment where I realized, hey, this thing can actually, make me a living. And so I didn't have to be full time at this company. And so I ended up leaving the company. I moved to Brazil a couple of months later. And then, of course, this coincidentally happened just before the pandemic. So I was living in Brazil, a full-time freelancer, but I also happened to meet my now husband in the first weeks of arriving, and then everything kind of fell into place. But it wasn't too long after that when I created a Fiverr profile, got my first couple of orders within the first few days, and then that's really when the flywheel kicked in, and I continued to take on jobs, grew that into becoming the #1 writing agency on the platform. And then, of course, all of this spiraled into Wordbrew.
That's amazing. So you were using tools like Fiverr. Was it just Fiverr exclusively you were using?
Yeah, it was. I did play around with tools like Upwork, but funnily enough, actually, Upwork have blocked me on Instagram. Don't ask me why. Yeah, it's I don't even know why this happened, but rivalry between Fiverr. But I tried to replicate everything I was doing on Fiverr, on Upwork, and for some reason they must have blacklisted me because I tried to post a job and then I kept getting blacklisted, shut down my account, couldn't log in, nobody at customer support would speak to me. And then I messaged on Instagram saying, hey, is everything okay? What's going on? Would love to make you guys money and also make money for them. They just blocked me on Instagram as well. So something's got to me.
So that's really weird. And so from those experiences of using Fiverr, I guess specifically, and really nailing the execution on that, because it's very easy to get lost in the noise of Fiverr. What things did you learn about how you were going to approach building content, scalable content?
Yeah, so I've said this on so many podcasts previously, but my motto was really to always follow the demand. And I think from that, I quickly learned how to kind of cut through all the other writers and service providers on Fiverr and ultimately play the algorithms to my advantage. So there were a few main strategies I had within that, some conventional, some less conventional. Which were, things like accepting every job. That was one of the first things I did, is to make sure that Fiverr saw that I had a high conversion rate and, of course, good reviews. And then there were some like micro strategies I had. So things like splitting up orders within different projects. So if a customer came to me saying, hey, I need website content and a blog, I would send them one offer for website content and one offer for a blog, whereas so many freelancers would just kind of bundle this into one package. But ultimately, then, A, I could have more orders and a higher conversion rate, B, and then C, more review opportunities. So that was one of the strategies. And then also things like sending repeat clients to other gigs or gigs that had a rating of less than 5 stars, and I knew that they were going to give me 5 stars. So that was like a really like low risk way for me to like guarantee good reviews on other gigs, and also like artificially inflate those gigs as well. So they were like a couple of examples.
Yeah.
Strategy there. I think this so many people just think that it's just about bidding on jobs and doing those things, and then all of a sudden you're going to be a nomad capitalist, so to speak, where you could just go live in Brazil, meet your future husband, and be rich. But it's actually quite a bit more than that. It's strategy. So I want to switch gears here a little bit and talk about Wordbrew. So you were doing really well at Fiverr. What made you kind of want to go and tell us about the early days of Wordbrew and how you switched from that?
Yeah, so I would say, like, firstly, I was able to witness all of these pain points across Fiverr, and then when I created Wordbrew, the agency, I saw even more of similar pain points, but also at a different scale. But one of those was like how challenging it was to create and scale high quality content, but not just for small businesses, also for enterprise companies as well. We worked with brands in Fiverr like Amex, Toshiba, and you probably think to yourself, like, why is Amex and Toshiba on Fiverr, which typically has like a reputation of like poor clients and poor service providers. I mean, the name Fiverr, it just inherently screams cheap, doesn't it? So that's one thing. But there are so many different kinds of businesses on Fiverr, and we were able to see all of these pain points across the different company stages and sizes. Through our work in Fiverr, we did over 16,000 projects on Fiverr, still on Fiverr today. And so, yeah, it was really like the Wild West. But I would say the real insight came from just seeing how both quality and quantity was so important for success. And obviously with Wordbrew, we decided to build a platform that addressed both sides of the equation. So combining human insight with the efficiency of AI. And really the platform we've built is this kind of system that helps capture expertise and then transform it into unique content without sacrificing speed or quality.
So what were some of those like pivotal moments in there where you really had to make a decision on how this tool was going to differentiate in the market to just a normal freelancer?
So I really think it was just seeing how big of a problem. There were two main problems that we were solving across Fiverr and Wordbrew, the agency. So generic content was a big problem, and also I saw, again, across different companies' stages, how there was so much incredible subject matter expertise that was trapped within companies, and nobody seemed to have an easy way to actually extract that. So seeing those two main pain points across both Fiverr and Wordbrew, I thought, well, now we have AI at our fingertips. How can I combine what we're currently offering, content creation, with the efficiency of AI in more of a productized way? And that was really where I decided to, build the product Wordbrew.
Got it. So, one of the things that I think Wordbrew is really good at is combining that AI efficiency with human insight. I've never really seen that in a platform before. Obviously, with like ChatGPT and things like that, you could go out there and just have a conversation with a bot. But one of the things that's really unique about you is that human expertise, that human insight. How does, Wordbrew really get that balance right?
Yeah, so it's all about having enough source context. And I always refer to the phrase like garbage in, garbage out. And if you don't just spend that little bit of extra time collecting that unique source context, you're just going to get generic outputs. And so it really, in that sense, is the perfect balance between human insights and AI. And that's why I almost think of Wordbrew sometimes as this like knowledge extraction engine that helps unlock this expertise from companies and then use AI, the efficiency of AI, to transform that into content. And so within the Wordbrew platform, there are 3 main stages of content creation. We have the brief stage where, you consider this as like your AI prompt. You share any reference files like a transcript or your general brief, like what you want from the project. And then you go to outline mode where you can kind of refine and configure what your first draft will look like. And this is also your opportunity to request expert insights, whether internally from your teammates, your customers, your ambassadors, which they can submit their insights asynchronously in any format, voice memos, short written notes, or you can actually access our external expert network. We have several hundred experts, pre-vetted experts in our network that you can also tap for added expertise. So it's like a super easy way to collect that data and then of course turn all of this into content. So just again, like highlighting the fact that without that unique source context, you are just going to get something very generic. So really, really important to remember that. It's all about a balance.
Yeah, so it sounds like a lot of that is to make sure it's set up right and it does sound authentic. But what things are in place so it remains like authentic and it stays with the brand voice? And because I know when I use AI, sometimes it can go off wandering. Some people call it hallucinations and stuff, but I find it starts to wander off the topic. I'm like, no, come back. This is what we're talking about. This is what I want to do. So how do you see that?
Well, this is a funny question. I love it when people ask me this question because typically you imagine like, oh, what amazing tools do you have that like get amazing insights and things like that? But the main tool is the knowledge from the company. That's literally it. We just provide the means to collect that knowledge and then turn that into content. So it's really as simple as that, honestly.
In a world now where like content is just saturated, how does Wordbrew really help brands stand out and maintain credibility?
Yeah, well, I think the easy answer here is that we provide users with these workflow tools that they need to help their own brand kind of unlock the knowledge and then turn that knowledge into content at a scale that you wouldn't have been able to do before. So in that sense, we just give them the means to turn their insights into content, but of course the unique knowledge already exists within the companies. So I often, again, consider Wordbrew as this knowledge extraction engine instead of just being a content creation tool. And then second to that, we, of course, have our own external expert network, which can support on the distribution side. So you can actually capture vetted expert insights and actually distribute them through credible sources. So, of course, like in that sense, you're not just creating content that looks and sounds like you, but it also reaches your target audience as well, and not just any audience, but it is relevant audiences since you're tapping experts that are already experts in your industry. So it's a really good benefit in that sense.
Yeah, like I've seen this firsthand, which is that some marketing agencies, content writers are dying off or finding it hard to find work now because more and more of us are relying on AI tools and can do a lot of this ourselves. So I love the way that you are creating this additional insight and knowledge inside the system. And I'm interested in like people like Notion who are out there building AI tools, but also are internal intranets, and they've got knowledge that could be used and leveraged better. Big fan of them. How do you see the future looking? What are we going to start seeing in this AI generated world, and how's this going to evolve more?
Yeah, so I think firstly, we're definitely shifting from this quantity mindset into quality at scale. So the quality is definitely going to replace this heavy focus on quantity, first and foremost. This is a big belief of ours at Wordbrew. Definitely don't shy away from sharing this with customers, with people on demos who ask things like, how does Wordbrew support from an SEO perspective? And of course, while there are workarounds in the platform, for the most part, my answer is like, doesn't really like help. It's not really an SEO tool, basically.
Yeah.
And so obviously this like initial AI content wave focused on producing a lot of content faster, but now we're actually seeing this shift towards using AI to actually produce better content, and I guess scaling knowledge versus scaling generic content.
Mm.
Uh,
Yeah, I want to ask a part B on that, if that's okay, because that's
yeah,
such a good point. I just want to dig in a little bit deeper because I think it was a report that came in recently, which is to say that Google search is actually going down for the first time. And I've
yeah,
been in this industry for a long time, building technology companies, building e-commerce sites, and it was content is king was the thing, but it wasn't quality, like you said. And whenever you would strive to create better quality content, it would only hurt you. Yeah, and back in the day, you had to cram as many words as you could and put white letters at the bottom of your website and stuff. So it's interesting that quality is coming back.
yeah, totally. And it all comes down to this concept of like information gain, right? And this is exactly what these search engines want to see. Everyone talks about AIO, for example, and like how you're actually creating content today for search engines instead of like to rank on Google, to be on page one, to be in the top 10, right? And so this concept of information gain is if you have something unique and differentiated and authoritative to say, then that's going to boost your authority and I guess even positioning in these AI models more than anything else. So that's definitely a belief that we have at Wordbrew. And again, coming down to this concept of transforming knowledge into content and allowing people and brands to share their unique insights at
Mm.
scale.
No,
And I just want to go in that a little bit more because I think that's one of the crucial pieces of WordBrew. So one of the things that I thought was so cool, I was writing when I was reviewing WordBrew, I was writing, and as I was writing, these experts showed up. You mentioned kind of that expert network that you were talking about, and one of the things that I thought was so cool is literally all within the platform, I could just pick a subject matter expert or even add my own right there where I'd send them an invite. And then in a couple hours, I got something back of like, hey, here's what I think about this. So, there's a SEO expert in one of the things that I was talking about, or a design expert, or like me, a product management expert. What are your kind of plans to really grow and scale that expert network?
Yeah, I mean, firstly, I would say that this is just a massive challenge. Like, I had so many people before I even built WordBrew, they were like, "Are you sure you want to do this? Like, you know how hard it is to scale a marketplace? Of course, you have to match supply and demand." And I mean, they were definitely right. It's much easier said than done. But no, we absolutely have plans to keep scaling the expert network. And I guess it's also just a matter of credibility and awareness about Wordbrew because some of the first things people ask me is like, what is an expert network? Or like, oh, does this mean sharing insights? Does that mean I have to share to jump on calls with clients and like have synchronous interviews? And of course I have to explain all of this, but yeah, it truly is like such an easy and asynchronous way to contribute on these projects, and it's great for the experts too because they're able to build their own brand authority. If they don't charge for insights, for example, but they can also choose to charge for their short form insights and actually monetize their knowledge, unlike LinkedIn, right? If you think about LinkedIn collaborator articles, for example, which was actually a bit of an inspiration I had when I created Wordbrew. Of course, like everyone was contributing for this little badge on their profile, right? Nobody was getting paid. Like everyone just wanted to be this thought leader in marketing or technology, whatever that is. And then on the side of LinkedIn, they're just creating these like really crappy quality pieces of content that nobody's reading. And it's like, what is the point? So that was my aha moment. I remember I was sat in my egg chair in Tampa in my backyard. I was like, oh my goodness, this could actually be something. And we were kind of already on this hybrid content creation wave at Wordbrew on the agency side. And then I thought about this and I was like, wow, this could really be something if we bring this like collaborative content creation model to companies and actually allow them to create unique and differentiated content with expert insights. So that was a really big moment for me, and Wordbrew began. We begun building the platform just a month later.
That's amazing. So talking about WordBrew and getting into like the building things, every founder, Matt, myself, every founder we've talked to on the show, you know, always faces these monumental hurdles. It's not like the Instagram posers you see that say, oh, you can have 10 hours a week of work and be a millionaire and everything else. It's quite much more than that. So I'd love to hear one of your significant challenges that you've gone through at WordBrew.
Oh my goodness, there are so many. I think every founder says this, like how many challenges there were, but I've really touched on this so many times again in like previous conversations and podcasts. But really, for me, it was down to the team and hiring. Like, I've had so many people come and go over the years. I've improved myself and my leadership skills. I've increased our revenue and all of the above so we can pay higher salaries or hourly rates, whatever that looks like. But the one thing I've learned is that people will always just come and go. And I honestly believe this, even if you have such an incredible company culture. Like, you just can't run away from it and under no circumstance. And like, there are in the past people I've worked with at massive companies I really admired for having an incredible team culture. And I think, how on earth are these guys, like, how on earth are these guys like ever going to consider leaving the company? Like, are they going to stay there forever? And anyway, it's super inspiring from a culture perspective, but people still ended up leaving. And again, just no company is safe from people coming and going. And I just honestly learned to do my very best while people are here, put them in the right roles, not overload people. It's just really so hard, especially in the early days when you already have so much imposter syndrome. You blame yourself for every possible reason why somebody left. You start theorizing, getting paranoid over reasons why they may have actually left, even though they gave you one other reason. And honestly, I've just come to peace with it now. And I'm emotionally prepared for expecting that people will come and go.
Yeah. Yeah, it can be emotional when it's people, isn't it? You care about people. They can get to you sometimes. I know I've had circumstances where people left and I get kind of sad, but I understand. Look, so that we can switch that one to a more positive note. What are some of the big milestones that you've reached that you're particularly proud of, that you think is worth mentioning?
Yeah, so there are a few key ones. Obviously, launching the Wordbrew platform and actually getting paid users, right? I love to say that I've passed the mum test in that sense. Like, have you guys read the book, The Mum Test, just out of interest? It's so good. It's so good. I was introduced to it when I was at the On Deck Fellowship. I'm not sure if you have heard of On Deck before. Yeah. Anyway, they introduced me to the book, and it's like, obviously, if you are building a business or building anything, the absolute last person you want to go to for advice is your mum, because your mum's going to say, "Oh, this is such a nice idea. Like, go ahead and do it," even if it's the worst thing in the world. So. Yeah, getting paid users on the platform was such an amazing milestone for me, and organic users, like, I posted on LinkedIn, they booked a demo, they signed up. Super proud of that. And I feel like even if Wordbrew for some reason doesn't scale into being as big as I want it to be, which of course is the goal, I've still got paid users on something, and I still feel like that's such a really important milestone that I'm proud of. And then secondly, I would say just how we've managed to create and define this new content category of like hybrid content creation, AI plus humans, instead of jumping on the bandwagon that all of these other companies are doing, right? These like AI agents doing everything for us. And, we've really created something that addresses these content challenges that so many teams face today. So they're like the main two. And there's another one. We've also managed to fund a school in Nepal with our partnership with the Paha Trust, and our goal is to keep building one school a year from next year. So that's something I'm really proud of too.
That's a cool flex.
That's phenomenal. Yeah, that's phenomenal. I think one of the other things that I would say is a huge milestone that I just want to highlight here is you're bootstrapping this. You're bootstrapping this, and you've gotten paid users. There's startup founders that we've talked to that have VC money and still are pre-revenue, in the millions.
Yeah, it's sorry, Matt, were you going to say something?
Oh no, just said, oh yeah, because I have definitely seen that. Like, I'm just thinking back all the people that have made millions of dollars and barely make anything. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. And I'm super proud of the fact that we're bootstrapped. And it's funny because, we've tried raising in the past. Like last year, we tried to raise, and I had maybe like 10 to 15 VC meetings, and this was all before we even had a prototype. So I get it that it was too early in that sense, and we just needed more to show. Even though the idea was amazing, people wanted to stay in touch, and all the things they say, like keep us updated with your progress and all that kind of stuff. So but I'm really proud of the fact that we're bootstrapped entirely. Starting from Fiverr, that allowed me to build the initial product and kind of hire initial team members at Wordbrew the agency, but really Wordbrew the agency was profitable from day one. So we had this contractor model, we didn't pay any full-time salaries, and that's still the case now until in a few weeks when we bring on our first full-time employee. So I'm super proud of the fact that
That's a milestone there as well, full-time employee.
Yes,
Yeah, that is. So I want to dive into that. So there's a lot of freelancers, and I actually relate to this because I started Social Center, my company that I raised 17 million for, as a service-based business, similar to your agency. And I think there's a lot to be said for the idea of freelancers moving into foundership and becoming an entrepreneur. What advice would you have for those that are currently freelancing now that would want to move into being a founder or an entrepreneur?
Yeah, I love this question. The first thing I would say is don't, and I mean, don't quit your job immediately before going freelance or building a business. You should always have some overtime kind of overlap between your full-time role and this new opportunity, the freelance clients that you want to onboard or starting a new business before you actually leave your full-time role. Because if in my case, for example, I only left my full-time role once I had 2 clients that I knew were very stable, that could cover my living expenses. And that was like the first thing I did to make sure that I could comfortably go freelance. And then the second thing I'd say is just make sure entrepreneurship is even right for you in the first place. There are so many online gurus saying to people like ditch your 9 to 5, quit the matrix, big companies don't care about you, quit your job, all this BS that I just cannot stand hearing. And I find it funny and stupid at the same time, because there's such a narrative that everyone should be an entrepreneur, or otherwise you'll be sad, poor robots for the rest of your lives. This just be farther from the truth, right? Some people are just happy working underneath people or at a company which isn't their own, and that is okay. Like, why are we shaming people for it? Ultimately, everybody can or should be an entrepreneur. By all means, try, but should never be an expectation, in my opinion.
I love that because we see these gurus all the time, don't we, Matt? And it's funny, they always seem to sell a course or some ebook or something like that about becoming an entrepreneur afterwards. Have you noticed that? Yeah, it's interesting. So their entrepreneurship is really like, not adding any value to the world or not really doing anything. It's just, hey, be an entrepreneur. Let me show you how by selling you my course for $999.
I got sorry. Actually, one thing we all share in common is we've all started as freelancers and then built companies. I was a freelance UX UI designer, and Adam was marketing, and you were content, and we all decided to do anything. But it definitely isn't for everybody. It's a full contact sport, and that's not for everybody. So I was posting on Instagram and stuff like that, just entrepreneur advice, because I'd just always done that. And someone had commented like, another guy selling a course. I'm like, I actually am not selling any course whatsoever. See, I'm just offering advice. So people just immediately assume that you're going to try and sell them a get rich quick scheme.
It's such a shame because it like makes the people who actually want to help invisible. Like, because everyone's so like weighed down by all these gurus and people that are trying to sell you something. And anyway, it's a whole conversation we can have another time, but it bugs me so much. So I'd like to see less of that and more of the good guys.
To double click into that, the real founders, the ones that have been in the arena, share their advice for free. That's what we do.
Oh
And
yeah.
so, we're not selling you any course. We're not doing anything like that. We're literally going in here and exposing and making the invisible visible. As you said, I love that line because the real founders, the ones that have been through it and been in the arena, been in the battlefield, they're often, deprioritized by LinkedIn's algorithm. For some reason, LinkedIn prefers, gurus that have never actually built anything to just come and surface, which we should get
I
to
think
answer this.
I would also add, like, when it comes to being an entrepreneur, if you're going to be a penny pincher, like don't bother, right? Like you should do things that don't scale. Like I still have so many free calls with clients. Like again, just like giving free advice. Like this is how you build relationships. And I know this is like a bit of an unrelated example, but like there's a really amazing Korean fried chicken place near my dad's house in Philadelphia, and we went there once. We went there a few times, and then we went there another time, and he just gave us something for free on the menu. And I'm like, wow, this is amazing. Like amazing customer service, and it keeps you coming back, right? Like if you're going to charge and if you're going to nickel and dime people for every single like second that you have to spend with them, forget about building a proper relationship with them. I believe that so strongly, and
Yeah.
I think that it comes down to this like unreasonable hospitality. Have you ever read that book?
So adjacent to that is like there's the article by Y Combinator, which is make things that don't scale. So like yeah, giving away free food at your restaurant isn't scalable, but done in the right way, it builds rapport, allows people to try bits of the menu, builds allegiances, or in a product sense of the word, you are being maybe more manual in some areas than you need to be, but what you learn from that is invaluable, and you maybe then go productize it later on. So we're going into like, and I think, with founders in this journey, it's really great that we're sharing it. That's why we did this podcast. We don't have a course and like that. And we want to share these things. And often we have as founders a bit of amnesia or, or kind of like naivete. And that's what keeps us going. But is there anything you would have done differently on the journey? Changes you would have made earlier or whatever you want to say?
Honestly, I think I have a bit more of a simplistic answer where I wouldn't actually change anything about my journey because everything just seems to constantly work out for me. I don't, touch wood, touch wood. I hope that everything continues to go this way. But yeah, everything just seems to have kind of fallen into place, and I've made one decision, or somebody's made a decision that initially made me upset, like a team member decided not to join full time after giving them an offer, and I was heartbroken at the start, but now I'm like, this is the best thing that could have ever happened because we ended up, having revenue to bring on somebody else that we needed or to build the product. And if I had that full-time person, I wouldn't have been able to pay the engineer to build Wordbrew, right? So just like all these little things that, again, everything happens for a reason, right? And I believe that very strongly, but just generally, I wouldn't change anything about my experience.
That's good. That's healthy. That sounds healthy.
Yeah, it does sound healthy. I was going to double click into that. I think one of the things that founders, especially new founders, think is that, I'm built this most amazing thing, and so everyone should want to work for me, right? And that's like the most sobering wake up call for me is after we raised our seed round, and I was like, yeah, now I can hire a bunch of full time people, and then no one wanted to work for me. I thought that was so weird, and then I realized it's like, as a founder, I think you have such a skewed. In a good way, a skewed perspective of the future. You see how the future is going to be in your little niche area, but most people can't see that. And so I think you say something really beneficial there, which is don't get discouraged if someone doesn't see it and they're not into it, because that doesn't mean that they probably would be happy there anyways. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. People are so complex, and like yeah, it just accepting that people are different. Like not everyone's going to see things the same way as you are. Of course, storytelling as a founder is incredibly important, and being able to attempt to paint the picture of what that future could look like. But yeah, again, just like people are still going to say no and turn you down, and that's okay. On to the next one.
Yep.
Exactly. Well, Georgia, thank you so much for coming today. And listeners, thank you so much for listening to the podcast. Share it with your friends. Tell your friends about it. Anyone who's thinking about entrepreneurship, because like we both said, and like Georgia highlighted, we're just trying to surface the real brutal truth of entrepreneurship and help you guys out there listening that who otherwise would run into the same barriers that we've all run into. We want to shorten the gap. We want you to go out there and build something amazing so you can hire people. And to that point that Georgia mentioned, not everyone's an entrepreneur. Not everyone's a founder, and that's completely okay. We need, as founders, people that want to work for a founder. And there's plenty of people that want to do that. And don't feel discouraged if you don't feel like you're a founder. But I would definitely encourage you to go work for one.